They called it routine fieldwork, just a 2-week ecological survey in a forested valley near the mountains. I'd done dozens before, mapping soil types, logging wildlife movement, checking air samples. Easy money, quiet work. But when the assignment email mentioned Hollow Vale, I couldn't find it on any of our GIS maps. I thought it was just a data entry error. The coordinates led to a patch of green on satellite view, somewhere between 2 ridges of the Garwin Range. No roads, no trails, nothing. I was told the Forest Service lost contact with a team that went in 3 years ago. Supposedly they were researching fungal growth and animal migration patterns. Their base camp was later found abandoned. That should have been my first red flag. I drove out in an old Jeep, the kind that rattles every time the wind hits it wrong. The paved roads ended halfway through the mountain pass. After that, it was dirt, fog, and silence. By the time I reached the edge of the vale, the sun was low and the forest felt heavier. No birds, no insects, just wind threading through the pines like a whisper that didn't quite sound natural. I set up camp by an old ranger post, a wooden cabin with a collapsed roof and an old radio still nailed to the wall. The dials were rusted, but someone had carved 3 words into the wood above it. Don't answer them. That night, as I reviewed my readings, the air pressure dropped. The forest went completely still, and then I heard it. A faint voice crackling through the dead radio. "Hello? Is anyone out there?" It was a woman's voice, weak, strained, repeating the same question every few seconds like a loop that never quite ended. But when I checked the radio, the power cord was cut clean through. By morning, the voice on the radio was gone, or maybe I'd convinced myself it was never there. The forest looked different in daylight, less like a nightmare and more like a job. I packed my recorder and GPS, marked the first survey point, and started hiking east into the valley. The trees here were strange, tall, skeletal, all leaning slightly toward the center of the vale, as if drawn by gravity. Their bark was slick, darker than it should have been, almost wet. Every step I took echoed more than it should have. The air didn't carry sound right, it swallowed it, like the forest was absorbing everything. Around noon, I found something odd, a trail camera, half buried in the dirt. The lens was cracked, the casing corroded. It must have belonged to the missing team. I took it back to camp, cleaned it up, and checked the SD card on my laptop. It had only 2 clips. The first was a man's voice, a quick, shaky log entry. "We've lost direction again, compass won't hold steady. I swear the tree line's shifting when we're not looking." The second clip was silent, just footage of trees. Except halfway through, the image warped. The trees bent slightly, like something unseen was moving between them. And for a few frames, I could have sworn I saw faces in the bark. By the 3rd day, I started hearing it for real. Faint clicks and murmurs that followed me no matter which direction I turned. When I stopped, they stopped. When I moved, they started again. At one point, I spoke aloud, just to break the silence. "If someone's out there, say something." The forest did. A branch snapped ahead, then another, closer. The fog thickened, and I could smell wet soil and something else, something metallic. I aimed my flashlight and caught sight of an animal, half hidden behind a tree. But it wasn't watching me. It was staring into the woods, trembling like it saw something far worse. That night, the voice returned through the radio. Only this time, it wasn't asking for help. "You shouldn't have answered." By day 5, my compass was useless. Every route I took bent me back toward the same clearing, no matter which direction I started. I'd begun marking the trees with orange tape, but each morning the marks were gone. Or worse, moved to places I hadn't been. That's when I saw the rooftops, half submerged in fog deep below a ridge, the remains of a village. From above, it looked like it had been built centuries ago, all wooden cabins with moss-covered roofs and stone chimneys swallowed by vines. It wasn't on any survey map, not even the historical overlays. As I descended the slope, I realized something unnerving. The air was completely still. No wind, no birds, just the dull hum of static that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The first house I entered was intact but stripped bare. No furniture, no signs of life. Just carvings etched into the walls, spirals, circles, eyes, hundreds of them. In the center of the floor, a ring of stones surrounded a pile of ash that looked too recent to be from a fire long dead. Then I found a photograph pinned to the wall. It showed a group of people standing in front of this same house. Their faces were all blurred, every single one. But at the edge of the photo, half hidden in the background fog, there was a figure watching them. Tall, still, barely human. I heard footsteps outside, slow, deliberate. I peeked through the broken window, and there they were. Figures standing in the fog between the houses, silent, motionless. At first, I thought they were mannequins or scarecrows, until one of them turned its head. I ran back into the trees, crashing through branches and roots until the village was gone behind me. But even after I'd gone miles, I could still hear the faint crackle of the radio in my pack. You saw them. Now they see you. I tore the radio apart, pulled the battery out, smashed the receiver, threw it into the creek. The voice didn't stop. It wasn't coming from the radio anymore. It was coming from the woods. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear it. A low, rhythmic whisper moving through the tree line. Not in the wind, through the wood itself. It was like the trees were breathing. By dawn, the fog had thickened so much that I could barely see 5 feet ahead. The air was damp and heavy, filled with a smell like old earth and wet iron. When I checked my gear, my field recorder had turned itself on sometime during the night. It had been running for 6 straight hours. There was no wind on the tape, no insects, no human voice. Just faint creaks, the sound of trees shifting, and something else beneath it, like murmuring words spoken too softly to catch. I ran the audio through a spectrogram on my laptop, out of habit more than curiosity. But when the waveform visualized, it didn't look random. It formed shapes, rings, circles, spirals, the same symbols carved into the walls of that village. That's when it hit me. The forest wasn't reacting to us, it was recording us. Every sound, every movement, every word, absorbed into the wood and played back like an echo in another language. At sunset, I went back toward the ridge, hoping to find a way out. But the path looked wrong, like someone had rearranged the forest while I slept. The trees weren't where they were before. Some had moved. I heard the voice again, clearer this time. Not from the radio, not from any direction. Leave what you took. I froze. Then I realized it meant the camera, the one from the old research team. I dropped my pack and ran, but the forest moved with me. The path shifted, branches closed in, and every step felt like I was being herded deeper, not out. Then I saw them again. The figures from the village, only closer, clearer. They weren't people. They looked like they had been once. Their skin bark-like, their mouths stretched open as if caught mid-scream, eyes black and hollow. Their limbs creaked as they turned toward me, heads tilting in perfect unison. And then they spoke, all at once. My own voice, repeating what I'd said days before. If someone's out there, say something. I ran until my lungs burned. But when I finally broke through the fog, the valley opened into a clearing I'd never seen before. At its center stood something massive, a tree taller than any I'd ever seen, its trunk black as coal and covered in carvings that pulsed faintly with light. The sound coming from it wasn't wind. It was breathing. Up close, the tree wasn't just black. It was scorched like lightning had struck it over and over for centuries. Yet it was still alive. I could hear sap moving through it, a deep, liquid pulse, steady as a heartbeat. Around its base lay hundreds of small wooden tokens, shapes of animals, human faces, hands, each carved crudely, as though by different people across different times. Some were half buried, others freshly laid in the dirt. I should have left, but I felt pulled toward it, like gravity or something older than that. When I touched the bark, it was warm, and for a second, I heard myself. Not an echo, not imagination, but my own voice whispering words I hadn't spoken yet. You came to measure, not to listen. I stumbled back, heart pounding. The fog churned around me, thick and heavy. The carvings on the trunk began to glow faintly, not with firelight, but with movement, as though the wood itself was rearranging. Faces formed, not human, not quite. Each one blinked once, slow and deliberate, and from their mouths came faint, overlapping whispers. I recognized the voices. The woman from the radio, the missing researchers, even the things I'd said when I first entered the Vale. Every sound remembered, every voice kept. The forest records what it takes. It wasn't a tree, it was an archive. Every soul, every sound that had ever entered the Vale, stored and replayed forever. My recorder clicked on by itself. The red light blinked, and through its tiny speaker I heard a voice, calm, steady, familiar, my own. The Hollow Vale is awake. I ran again. I don't remember how long. Maybe hours, maybe days. The fog eventually thinned, the ground turned to gravel, and somehow, impossibly, I found the dirt road where I'd first arrived. When I reached my jeep, it was half covered in moss. The windshield cracked, the engine cold as stone. Inside, my phone buzzed. One new voicemail. The timestamp read October 9th, 1987. When I pressed play, I heard the same voice from the first night. That woman. But this time she wasn't calling for help. You left the door open. Then came the sound of static, and beneath it, the faintest hum of trees breathing. They found my vehicle 6 months later, half buried beneath a landslide near the Garwin Range. Inside were my notebooks, a broken GPS, and a recorder still running on reserve battery. No one ever found me. At least that's what the reports say. The official investigation marked it as environmental disorientation. They said the valley was prone to fog and electromagnetic interference, that I'd gotten lost, panicked, and wandered off the path. Case closed, but the audio they recovered didn't match that theory. In the last recording, my voice sounds distant and like I'm speaking through layers of wind and static, and behind it, there's another sound. Not wind, not animals, just faint whispering. Every word I ever said in that forest, spoken back to me over and over. The analysis team thought it was an echo loop, some kind of malfunction. But if you listen closely, you'll hear something else. In the last 10 seconds of tape, just before the battery dies, another voice cuts through. Survey complete. After that, the signal ends. No one goes near Hollow Vale anymore. The area's been sealed off, marked as a geological hazard zone. Locals say the fog still rolls in every autumn, thick and low, carrying with it the sound of wind that doesn't quite behave like wind. Sometimes, if you listen close, you can hear someone calling out, a man's voice, faint but certain. If someone's out there, say something. And when the fog answers back, it doesn't sound like him anymore.